Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Boxiest, and today we're going to continue the What If series. What if events had gone differently? And in this What If, we're going to change the history of Cobra Kai. What if Yoon was the Cobra Kai captain during the events of Cobra Kai Season 6? So in this timeline, the events of Cobra Kai Season 6 would still happen, Grace would still go to Korea, and he would still meet Sensei Kim Daeun and Master Kim Sung-young. Sensei Kim would still be showing off her students, Yoon Dojin would still wear the Kumbaji patch, and he would still be the best student in the dojang. Yoon would still demonstrate the Viper attack with perfection, Quan would still be there, and he would still attack the head. Sensei Kim would be mad at Quan for taking a shortcut, and she would still punish Quan. Kreese would continue teaching the class. He would still tell him how Johnny used to be his best student, and how he was defeated by Daniel because he had more heart. Kreese would still ask the class how to defeat an opponent with more heart, and Yoon would still answer to have heart yourself. But Quan would make fun of Yoon's answer, and he would still say that they need to kill the heart. Kreese wouldn't like that Quan wasn't taking him seriously, and he would still punish the class, so the class would still be carrying sandbags all day. Yoon would still be mad at Quan for not having respect, and he would still knock Quan on the ground. Quan would still be angry, and those events would carry on. Later that night, Quan would approach Kreese, and he would still ask if he was trying to get the other students to get angry at him. He would say he wasn't afraid of them, but Kreese would tell Quan that he needed to combine his anger, his skills, and his strength. So Quan would still challenge Yoon in this timeline. Yoon would still be mad at Quan, and he would still attack him, and the other students would help Yoon, but Quan would be able to hold his own against the other students, and he would fight back. Yoon would use the Viper attack to get through Quan's defense, and he would knock Quan back. More students would arrive, and they would surround Quan. Quan would start fighting back, but the other students would outnumber Quan. Yoon would continue to use offense, and he would be showing no mercy. Yoon would use the original form of the silver bullet against Quan, and this would catch Quan off guard. Quan would be out of breath, and Yoon would knock him down. So in this timeline, Yoon would defeat Quan, and he would be standing over him. Yoon would say that this was the reason he was the best student, and why he wore the Kumbaji patch, and Yoon would finish Quan. Yoon would still be the best student in the dojang, and he would still wear the Kumbaji patch. Yoon would be the boys' captain for Cobra Kai for the Sekai Taikai. Quan wouldn't like that he lost to Yoon, and he would still be angry. Quan would still be part of Cobra Kai's team for the Sekai Taikai. Season 6 would continue. Kreese would still want to get in contact with Tori, but Tori still wouldn't want anything to do with Kreese. Tori's mom would still pass away. Season 6 would continue. Miyagi would still make it to the Sekai Taikai, and they would be surprised to see Kreese and Cobra Kai there, and they would be heartbroken to see Tori and Cobra Kai. The Sekai Taikai would continue. Robbie would still want to talk to Tori, but Tori still wouldn't want to talk to the Miyagi-Dos. Yoon and the Cobra Kais would still confront the Miyagi-Dos, and much like in the original timeline, Yoon and Hawk would start to have a rivalry. In this timeline, Cobra Kai wouldn't challenge the other JoJos to a kicking competition, so Miyagi-Do wouldn't lose one of their rooms in this timeline. Eventually, the Captain's War Challenge would begin. Miyagi-Do would be on defense, and they would still be doing Protect the Egg, but Tori and Quan would still want to go after the Miyagi-Dos. Devin and Dimitri would still go down. Yoon wouldn't be as aggressive in this timeline, and he would be fighting more with caution, but Yoon would still go after Hawk in this timeline, and those events would stay the same. Robbie would still be distracted by Tori, and Yoon would see Robbie distracted, so Yoon would take Robbie down, and Miyagi-Do would be out, so only the Cobra Kais and the Iron Dragons would remain. The rest of the Iron Dragons would still walk off, and Zara and Axel would be left to fight the Cobra Kais. Axel and Zara would take Yoon and Tori down, so the Iron Dragons would win. The Sekai Taikai would continue. Miyagi-Do would still have to knock the other dojo off the platform, but Miyagi-Do wouldn't do so well. In this timeline, Cobra Kai wouldn't be as high up in the leaderboard, and they would still fight another dojo on the platform. Cobra Kai would still defeat them, but Tori wouldn't knock out her opponent's tooth. So in this timeline, Zara wouldn't start to grow jealous of Tori. Miyagi-Do would still have to fight out Dublin Thunder. Robbie and Sam would still start off, and they would fight their opponents, but Robbie would still be distracted by Tori, so he would still be knocked off. So Devin would join Sam on the platform. Devin and Sam would still fight their opponents. The fight would continue, and Sam would still be knocked off. So Hawk would join Devin, and much like in the original timeline, Devin would still sacrifice herself to save Hawk, so Dimitri would join Hawk on the platform. Hawk and Dimitri would still fight their opponents, and Dimitri would still knock Hawk off the platform, and he would also be knocked off. Miguel would finish the fight, so Miyagi-Do would win. And much like in the original timeline, Carmen would still be rushed to the hospital, and Johnny and Miguel would have to leave. So Johnny would call for Kenny to take Miguel's place. The Miyagi-Do students would still go explore Barcelona, and they would still be at the tapas bar. This is when the Cobra guys would show up, and Sam would still go outside to get some air. Quan would still want to mess with Robbie, so Quan and Robbie would start to have a rivalry. Sam would still be walking down the beach, and she would still run into Axel. She would still compliment Axel on his kata, and the interaction between Sam and Axel would stay the same. In this timeline, Zara wouldn't interact with the Miyagi-Dos, and she would leave them alone. And meanwhile in the States, Amanda would still try to convince Kenny to go to Barcelona, but Kenny still wouldn't want to go, and Kenny would still think that Anthony put laxatives in his water. Eventually, Anthony would apologize to Kenny, and Devin would confess to Kenny that it was her that put laxatives in his water, so Kenny would decide to go. Eventually, Miguel, Johnny, and Kenny would come back to Barcelona, and Kenny would still take Devin's place. The team matches would continue. Miyagi-Do would still fight Furia de Pantera, and the fight would stay the same. Dimitri and Hawk would still be arguing, and they still wouldn't trust Kenny, so Furia de Pantera would win 3-1, and Miyagi-Do would still be close to elimination. Miguel would be mad that Miyagi-Do wasn't fighting properly. He would want Dimitri and Hawk to stop fighting, and to trust Kenny. Kenny would say that he was here to help them win, but Hawk and Dimitri still wouldn't trust Kenny, and during the next team match, Miyagi-Do would fight Redentores, and Miguel would still start off. He would use a combination of offense and defense, and he would tag in Robbie, and Robbie would land the first point. Robbie would tag in Kenny, and much like in the original timeline, Kenny would get 2 points, and they would still advance in their matches. Miyagi-Do would still fight Cobra Kai. Yoon and Robbie would start off. Yoon wouldn't be as aggressive as Quan, and he would use the Viper attack to get through Robbie's defense, so Yoon would score a point against Robbie. Yoon would tag in Tori, and Robbie would tag in Sam. Sam and Tori would fight, and Sam would land a point against Tori. Tori would tag in Junhee, and Sam would tag in Miguel, and he would get the second point, so Miguel would tag in Robbie. Robbie and Quan would fight, and that fight would stay the same. Robbie would land the final point on Quan, so Miyagi-Do would beat Cobra Kai in this timeline. The Sekai Taikai would continue. Tiger Strike would still be eliminated for cheating during the tournament, so Cobra Kai would be let back in. The semifinals would begin. Yoon would fight Diego, and he would still get a lot of points against him, so Yoon would win his match, and he would make it to the finals. Zara and Maria would fight, but Zara would still defeat Maria. Robbie and Axel would fight. Robbie would try to get some points on Axel, and he would get some points on Robbie. So in this timeline, Axel would defeat Robbie. Sam and Tori would fight, and they would both use a combination of offense and defense. The match would be close, so in this timeline, Tori would defeat Sam, so she would advance to the finals. And in the finals, Axel would fight Yoon, but Yoon would have a hard time getting a point on Axel, but Yoon would try the Viper technique, and he would manage to land a point on Axel. Axel would be surprised, and he would go on offense. Yoon wouldn't have much defense, so Axel would defeat Yoon in this timeline. Zara would fight Tori. Zara would be aggressive, and she would land some points on Tori. Tori would be using a combination of offense and defense. She would manage to land a point on Zara, so Zara would get more aggressive, and she would defeat Tori. So the Iron Dragons would win. Even though Miyagi-Do lost, Miyagi-Do would remain open, and things would be a lot more peaceful in the valley. And that is where I'm going to end this what if. Thank you guys for watching. What do you guys think would have happened if Yoon was a Cobra Kai captain during the events of Cobra Kai Season 6? Let me know in the comments below. YouTube lets me know that the majority of you are not subscribed, so if you guys could subscribe, that would be much appreciated. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. And I'll see you guys next time.